There is a precise physical sensation that accompanies the lie. It is a tightening in the throat, a shallowing of the breath, and an almost imperceptible nod of the head. Someone asks a favor you do not have the energy to give. Someone states an opinion you fundamentally oppose. Someone crosses a boundary you promised yourself you would defend. And yet, before the conscious mind can intervene, the reflex kicks in. You smile, you agree. You say, "Of course, no problem at all." You walk away, feeling a quiet, gnawing sickness in your stomach. Society calls this behavior being nice. We call it being a people pleaser. We wear it as a twisted badge of honor, presenting ourselves as selfless martyrs who simply care too much about the comfort of others. But this is a delusion, and beneath that delusion lies an uncomfortable, almost offensive psychological truth. People-pleasing is not a symptom of an overflow of kindness. It is not an act of generosity. It is a calculated, often subconscious form of manipulation. When we engage in this behavior, we are not trying to help the other person. We are trying to control them. We are attempting to curate their perception of us, to engineer a specific emotional response, and to insulate ourselves from the terrifying unpredictability of their judgment. We do not please others because we love them. We please them because we fear them. And in our fear, we attempt to bribe them into finding us acceptable. 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus observed that human suffering originates from a simple cognitive error, the inability to distinguish between what is ours to control and what belongs to the world. He called the domain of our own minds, our choices, our values, our aversions, the prohairesis. Everything else, wealth, health, and crucially, the opinions of others, falls outside our jurisdiction. Through a modern psychological lens, the people-pleaser is someone deeply terrified by this dichotomy. To accept that you cannot control what another person thinks of you requires a massive surrender of ego. It requires stepping into the void of vulnerability. The people-pleaser refuses to make this surrender. Instead, they try to hack the system. They believe that if they are agreeable enough, useful enough, and invisible enough, they can magically control the uncontrollable. They view human interaction not as a shared experience, but as a rigid algorithm. If I input infinite compliance, the output must be infinite approval. This is not kindness. It is a covert contract. It is the belief that by erasing your own edges, you can force the world to be soft with you. But reality does not honor this contract. The attempt to micromanage another human being's internal world through your own self-erasure is an act of quiet tyranny. It is exhausting, it is dishonest, and ultimately, it isolates you inside a prison of your own design. Consider the hidden transaction occurring when you agree to something you despise. On the surface, you're offering a gift, your time, your energy, your agreement. But beneath the surface, there is an invisible psychological invoice attached to the interaction. You are silently saying, "I've abandoned my own needs for yours. In exchange, you are now obligated to never abandon me, never criticize me, and always validate my worth." This dynamic is inherently deceptive. The other person does not know they have entered into a contract. They believe your agreement is genuine. When they inevitably fail to pay the invisible debt you feel you are owed, when they take your yes for granted or critique you. Anyway, you do not feel the peaceful detachment of someone who has given a free gift. You feel bitter. You feel used. This resentment is the definitive proof of your manipulation. We do not resent people for accepting our genuine gifts. We only resent them when our bribes fail to purchase the security we thought we were buying. There is a tragic irony in the psychology of the chronic accommodator. The stated goal of the behavior is connection. We mold ourselves to the shape of the room because we are desperate to belong to it. But true connection requires two solid entities. It requires a collision of real minds. If you alter your opinions, bury your preferences, and constantly mirror the person in front of you, who are they actually connecting with? They are not connecting with you. They are connecting with a projection, a tailored hologram designed to mirror their own ego back to them. You have made yourself into a human chameleon, and while a chameleon may successfully blend into the branch, it does not form a relationship with the tree. It merely hides there. This is the profound loneliness of the people-pleaser. You may be surrounded by people who like you, but you know deep in your core that they only like the mask. You are loved for the performance, which means you are entirely alone on the stage. The Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius, often wrote about the inner citadel, the fortress of the mind, that must remain unbreached by external chaos. To cultivate this inner power is to recognize that your worth, your dignity, and your moral compass must be entirely self-generated. People-pleasing is the act of leaving the gates of your citadel wide open and handing the keys to passing strangers. It is outsourcing your emotional regulation to the crowd. When you define your stability by the smile or the frown of your neighbor, you are no longer a sovereign individual. You are a puppet. And the strings are pulled by the changing moods, the passing irritations, and the fleeting desires of people who are just as confused and anxious as you are. To reclaim the citadel requires radical responsibility. It means looking at the friction of social life not as a threat to be managed, but as a reality to be endured. It requires the gritty realization that someone being disappointed in you is not an emergency. It is simply a fact of nature like the rain or the wind. To drop the manipulation of people-pleasing is not a path to social dominance. Walking this path will not make you an intimidating alpha. It will not magically command the respect of the room. In fact, the opposite is far more likely. When you stop playing the game, when you stop smoothing out every edge and absorbing every conflict, people will be unsettled. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will accuse you of becoming selfish. You will face misunderstanding. You will experience the very social friction you have spent your entire life twisting yourself into knots to avoid. You may lose the warm, comfortable title of being the nice one. You may find that some rooms you used to blend into no longer have a seat for you. Stoicism offers no guarantee that authenticity will be rewarded by the world. It only guarantees that it will be rewarded internally. It is a trade. You lose the illusion of control over others, and in return, you gain custody of yourself. So the next time the reflex rises in your throat, the urge to nod, to placate, to barter your truth for a moment of artificial peace, pause. Step back into the silence of your own mind. Look at the person in front of you. Let them be angry. Let them be disappointed. Let them walk away if they must. Who are you when you finally stop performing for an audience that was never really watching anyway?